All right, guys, I just had a wicked coaching session. I was the coachee, and I want to share about it for a minute because it's one of the most exciting and wonderful things about being a coach and why, as a vocation, it's so wonderful, but it's also very, very hard, which is you have to really be passionate and obsessed with personal growth because the coach is growing with the clients. And in order for us to all do our work and me to create the value that I really do create for those who hire me as their coach, requires me to be constantly assessing patterns, my patterns, their patterns, and where breakthroughs are, where there's a new doorknob we can grab, a new window we can open, because you're never, and unlike therapy where they can believe you're actually stuck somewhere, they can be diagnosing you and say, okay, well, this person has all these different issues, they really can't get anywhere, so I'm just going to listen to them and help them get through it. Coaching is very much, you have everything you need. I don't care what you come with, and you have all these patterns, and we're just going to see if you talk about your patterns in such a way and we look at it in a new way, in this way, can we find a new doorknob, a new window, something to get out of your patterns because they're driving you nuts, and that's why you're here. But we're all a slave to our patterns. I think a lot of humans don't realize that. That's why K-pop Demon Hunters was so beautiful in the way it said, your patterns are the problem, right? And you have patterns on you, and your patterns, especially if they run deep and shameful and are family-based or ancient, they impact you. Like, you have to know you are operating off of a pattern framework. And when you realize that you are operating off of a set of learned behavioral patterns that key up an auto reaction in you, that if you take enough time to reflect and stop the auto reaction and expand out the pattern and everything that's happening and talk about it, you can see something new and make a new choice as a result. It's pattern analysis. And as a coach, I do a lot of work outside of session to analyze clients' patterns because I went to coaching school the first time 10 years ago. I have not been working as some kind of avid, passionate coach. I've gone back for my master's. I did get my 500 hours of certification, practice, coaching hours. However, I've been around it long enough to see that these patterns emerge on a broader scale if you're a coach. And as you see them, if I look at them and find what is showing up in my space and work to break through it, my clients will break through their own patterns faster. Not in the same way I do, not because I did it, but there's just some kind of collective energy that happens where the more work I do to shift these things, the more I see my clients shift. And it's not necessarily about what happens in session. So me getting coached by someone on my own patterns is key in order for me to move this process forward. And as a coach, you get coached a lot. And I'm so blessed that I have this particular person that is a really good coach and has been walking with me for a while, and I trust them. And today we were able to dig into this deep pattern of overfunctioning for people, for love, for worth. Why do I need to overfunction? And realizing that behind the overfunctioning is a shutdown and then throw out of people because it's too much. I'm overfunctioning for them and it's asking too much of me. And digging into what is that pattern? What's underneath that? Where does it come from for me specifically? And realizing, like, at first I was like, oh, I have too big of a wall, keeping people out, need to tear it down. That was my initial assessment. And the coach keeps asking questions and opening the pattern further. And it's like, actually, as we really look at my specific pattern, which is different than anyone else's pattern, but I was homeschooled. I didn't have friends as a kid. I was moving a lot, so any relationships I did have were lost. I didn't get to go do normal things kids got to do. I was one of those weird kids who wanted to go to school because I was homeschooled and I just wanted to be normal. And I was like, can I just go to school and be normal like other people? And so this FOMO developed, like this need to get, and so what emerged in the pattern analysis was not that I needed to tear the wall down, but actually that I had a lack of proper, like America, my border management process for relationships wasn't very good. I was running the current American process, which is said, let everybody in, and then if they don't work, let's throw them out. And that's not a great way to vet relationships because you didn't need to let them in the first place. Much better to have a better, like, how deep do we want to let these relationships in? And let's keep them at the door, and then we don't have to throw anybody out, right? Fascinating. So as we have this conversation, this is what's emerging in the pattern. Like now I'm talking to you about after all the conclusions, but how powerful, because at first my initial assessments of what was happening with this pattern would lead me down an inappropriate path, or it would take me longer to figure out. But with the right coaching and session, asking questions, I start to realize that my initial assessment of what's going on here is not what's there. And there's a couple layers beyond it. And there's a couple layers beyond it to realize like this really is about, you can love people, but you don't have to make everyone a close friend. And who do we want at the door? And what parameters do I have for who I let into different layers and levels and places of my life and relationship? And why? What is authenticity? So often we think authenticity is needing to share everything with everyone all the time, and it isn't. But when you've been inauthentic for so long as I was, not sharing anything with anyone, when you begin to take off those layers, everything comes out at first. That's a natural pendulum swing process. And a lot of times in our culture, we don't allow for that. So we like judge people where they are. And it's like, no, that person's just working something out. Let them pendulum swing a few times. They're gonna be fine in a year. Like, let people work it out. If you have been backed up or swallowing your truth for a long time, you're gonna need to share your truth for a while. And of course the world will be like, why do you have so much to say? And you just need to be like, because I didn't say anything for a while. Are you willing to listen to me so I can heal? Or are you going to tell me to get back in the box and keep stuffing it like they did? Because then I know where you belong in my life. The people who love us want our process to continue. They'll go, yeah, you're flowing, keep it going. And granted, I have that training and coaching to know how beneficial that process is. But really, as a modern culture, we all should know, like if someone's grieving, they need to talk about their loss a lot. Don't tell them it's been long enough. It's been 5 years, Billy, move on. Like people need to repeat. And depending how much they were able to talk about previous things, they might need to repeat. Or they shut down and go inside and decide the world is unsafe. And then they just get super bitter and don't want to engage with anyone because it's everyone else's fault. And they're only half right. They're half right? We could be kinder. We could ask people to speak more. We could be more curious about each other. We could ask more questions. We could show that we care. However, we also need to be evaluating relationships so that we have the right people in our space that do care. And we need to be doing the hard work of building our skills and letting go, getting out all the things that are backed up in us and the areas where we weren't developed by the adults coming before us. Because guys, it's a cycle. Again, it's a pattern. Your parents couldn't be different than they were because they were stuck in a pattern. They didn't have all the skills and tools that we have. We have the skills and tools now to break patterns. Like Gen X, starting with Gen X, Baby boomers didn't do it. They might have had the tools, but they didn't do it, right? But they got some hallucinogenics going. Like they got the ball rolling, right? Give them a little credit for that. But Gen X, and then into the millennial, and in the Gen Z, guys, we are getting the tools to shift patterns. And that means the hard work is with us. We get to be the generation that says, all right, buck stops with us, which means we have to do the hard work. Boomers ain't going to do it. And I think it's really Gen X can produce a lot of value here because we're in between. Millennials and Gen Z are a little soft. They need a little more mentorship and love and guidance and care. They've been a little underparented. And Gen X is a little overparented, So, and it's interesting because like the overparenting is shifting and how it's damaging. But that's all. We really need to sit here and say like, it's time for us all to really start to unpack these patterns and do something about them because I don't have to replicate them in the people around me or in my relationships. I really can do things in a different way if I'm willing to do the hard work to unpack the pattern and look at it. It's actually not that hard of work, but you do have to show up for a session and talk and share and look. And sometimes that's very hard. But when you begin to realize how much better you're going to feel when you get to the truths that are on the other side of the bullshit you're selling yourself inside your head, it's different when you say it out. Like you can't kind of bullshit yourself at the same level. You're going to feel so good shifting your life and making new choices and being like, oh my God, I've written down to do this 1,000,000 times and never did it. And 1,000,000 people have told me to do it and I couldn't do it. And suddenly I was in a coaching session and saw it all in a different way. And I realized why I want to do it and everything changed. And that's what we have to get back to. Like no one can give you an answer that's going to cause you to change. It's so frustrating, isn't it? And no one can give you a magic pill that's going to cause you to change. You have to find your own truths. And then when you see it, change becomes easy. Like, we're working so hard for minimal change and results that generate from that because they continue to be given to us, our insights, rather than us achieving them on our own. And when you have your own insights, now granted, the coach on the call with me helped me create my insights. I couldn't have gone there without him, but they're still mine. Like, he followed my path, my trajectory, and got me there. And so those things are key for me. Now, will he have growth as a result of that call? Of course. He's going to see a bunch of things about himself, I'm sure. And that's what's so cool about this, is it's something that goes both ways. But anyway, looking forward to shifting this pattern because it puts me in a completely different position to do my relationships different. That's an important thing to share. And with that, I'm complete.